Hi, this is Penry Gustafson, the Republican candidate for the South Carolina House of Representatives for District 52. We are 14 days away from the vote, and I've been asked some questions about guns, Second Amendment rights, and I think these are valid questions because I'm a first-time candidate. There's no record. I don't have a voting record yet. I don't have an NRA rating yet. So I think it's appropriate for me to at least start the conversation with the voting public about where I stand on things. I have a unique stance, and I hope that I can exceed your expectations because politicians are not known for their extreme honesty. But that's what you get from me. I'm pretty direct, and I will tell it like it is. So, but before I go into guns per se, you need to hear about Troy. I got a call on a Sunday morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was my pastor. And it couldn't be good news. A 5 a.m. phone call on a Sunday morning. And it wasn't. It was the worst news I've ever received in my entire life. Herman Yost explained that my brother, Troy, had been shot and had died a few hours earlier. There's a shock that comes with that kind of news that I can't even explain. It makes your whole body stop breathing. And it's like somebody hits you in the chest. And before I could even say anything, that shock was broken because I could hear my mother wailing, crying in the background. It was a horrific situation. And it was life-changing. It was a pivotal moment in my life that changed me and my mother and my family forever. So to just simply ask me, how do you feel about guns? What's your stance on Second Amendment rights? I have to preface it. I have to. As a victim of gun violence, the voter needs to understand that. Now, it was also a tough time for me. My first husband had recently moved out. We were getting a divorce. I had to move. I had to take care of everything. I took my son to Columbia and moved my mother in with me. She started grief counseling weekly for over a year. She and I joined a group called POMC, Parents of Murdered Children, and it was a support group. It was led by Marvin Bryant, who was the founder of the South Carolina chapter. We leaned on each other. We shared our stories. We cried together. It's a remarkable group. And these people come in all kinds of forms and colors and sizes. And let me tell you, gun violence hits everybody. It can hit you. And I hope that you haven't had the same experience I have had. But if you think about it if your brother or your father or your son were shot dead by a criminal who'd stolen a gun and went on a felony spree. These two young boys, 18 years old. Troy had been waiting at a friend's house. He got there early. So he was waiting in front of the house. And a car broke down. And these two young boys got out, and they were trying to push the car off. They were skinny little things, and they couldn't get the car off the road. So Troy went over there to help them, because that's what he always did. He had a huge, big heart. But what he didn't know is earlier that day, they had carjacked that car with that same gun. And as soon as he helped them get the car off the road, one of those guys turned around and shot my brother point blank 3 feet away from him in his chest. And he was dead before he hit the ground. Now, like I said before, this was a pivotal moment. And since that time, I have become a fierce advocate and a fierce spokesperson against gun violence in our state. I have marched down to the State House to bring awareness. I have spoken on the State House steps. I have spoken on behalf of POMC and other groups. I've also been involved with the Faith Coalition on Gun Violence. So understand this. got to understand this. I am against gun violence and criminal activity. I am not against guns. I am not against the Second Amendment. I'm a fierce supporter of our Constitution, which is the law of our land. It is what makes us unique, and it binds us together. And I will fiercely defend it and support it. Our right to bear arms is basic, and the Constitution, like I said, is not I don't believe it's a living, breathing article that needs to be changed. And no, it's not. It's the law. So as a politically motivated person, of course, someone who's representing you, it's a great responsibility. The very first thing I think of, is safety. So I take that very seriously. But as a victim of gun violence, I also am acutely aware of all gun-related issues. I didn't just read up on this when I decided to run for office. I have been living this since 2004. I know a lot about it. And there's a lot of things we can do and not do. I do not believe we should have any kind of gun registry. I think that would target people unnecessarily and make them unsafe. I also believe that no gun zones should be eliminated. It's just a giant target for people to get killed if people know there are no guns allowed in a particular place. So I'm against that too. I'm definitely for Second Amendment rights. I mean, I grew up in South Carolina. It was just a no-brainer for me. I never even thought about it. As far as, being for or against, I mean, everybody hunts and people have guns. So, for me, it was just kind of a way of life. And my husband, same thing. My husband grew up in rural Pennsylvania. And in that neck of the woods in America, what they do on the first day of hunting season is they take off from school. They are allowed, it's a holiday, actually. Everybody gets out of school and they all go hunting. My husband also is a combat war veteran. So he's been around a gun or two. And I think it's fair to say that my personal history and my personal life experience has prepared me to look at a lot of different things and a lot of different angles for legislation. But for me to support legislation, it has to be, number one, needed. It needs to be able to be implemented, and we need to be able to afford it. So if something seems outrageous and costs a lot of money, guess what? I'm not going to be for it. Not going to be for it. So as an elected official, know that I'm going to defend your safety and your rights. As a victim of crime, a violent crime, I will be acutely aware and passionate and compassionate for those who are also victims. I will be able to look at many different related issues from a unique perspective. Very unique. I'm different. Y'all, I'm very different. And I promise you, I will make a wonderful state representative. And I ask you for your vote and your support. I love South Carolina. I love where I live. And I'm passionate about everything, it seems like, but I am. And I think we can be better in South Carolina. And our homicide rates are sky high. Our suicide rates among veterans, sky high. We need SROs in our high schools, in our middle schools. We need prison reform. There's a lot that can be done, and I'm dedicated to tackling some of these really big issues that a lot of people won't touch. Well, I will. I will do that, and I'll do more. So please, please vote for me and understand that I am not against guns at all. I'm just against gun violence, and that's quite a different thing. And I appreciate your time listening to this very long video. Thank you for hearing my story, and there's much, much more to it. But I think you probably have heard enough for today. So within the next 2 weeks, make your voice count, make it be heard, and vote for me. And God bless each and every one of you. In South Carolina, too.